This is the event where Mitch McConnell stops speaking very mysteriously. Mainstream press is saying maybe he had a stroke or something like that. Well, just look at the video and it'll become obvious. But it happens very quickly. So we're going to stop and start it a couple of times while we go through this. There are certain key players here. There's 5 actors on this stage. They're all around Mitch. There's the lady in green. By the way, I don't care about who politicians' names or who, whatever. I just don't care about that because they're all actors and actresses, and they don't report to you. They report to their big bosses way up the food chain. So looking to the left, there's a lady in green, and we're going to call her Mrs. Green. Next guy is Mr. Red Tie. Next guy to the left, to our right, is Mr. Striped Tie. Then there's Mr. Blue Tie. Then there's Mrs. Pink. Sorry, Mrs. Pink. Okay, so that's what I'm going to call them. What's going to happen here is that you'll see Mrs. Green move Mr. Red Tie aside just a little bit so she can come up to Mitch McConnell. She is going to touch his hand, and then she's going to back away. And I want you to watch this happen, and I want you to watch the expression on everybody's faces. I'll put your attention on certain people at certain times. Here we go. Okay, just before Mrs. Green approaches Mitch, Mr. Striped Tie gets her attention, says something very quickly to her, and then they both go back to their business. They have big smiles. Maybe somebody cracked a joke, but it was very short. Notice that Mr. Striped Tie is leaning in, positioning himself, leaning over to his left so that he can watch this hand touch very intently. Mr. Red Tie is pretty intent on the scene too. The other two know what's going to happen, as will become clear, but they're not focused on it at this moment. At the same time, the lady in pink, she is trying to keep her direction forward while looking out the sides of her eyes at Mitch. Continuing. Here it is. You notice how the 2 men on the left are leaning in. They want to see this. They got to see this. This is real important to them. Mrs. Green is just about to touch Mitch McConnell's hand. Sorry. Let's continue. There it is. She touched his hand. And she pulls her hand away very quickly. Just a little motion. Nobody in the room except those 5 saw it or knew that it was happening. Mr. Striped Tie is now satisfied that the deed has been done, and he's going to back away and kind of turn his gaze over to Mitch to see if it had the desired effect. Now, I also want you to watch, as we're going into this section here, Mr. Blue Tie. Okay, they're settling back into their places. The deed is done. Mitch is no longer speaking. He stopped on the syllable that he was saying right when Mrs. Green touched his hand. Now again, watch Mr. Blue Tie here. Quite the actor. You see that? Look at those smiles. If I had paused it in the middle of this, you would have seen all 5 of them with big smiles on their faces. As it was, you got to see the little knowing glance between Mr. Blue Tie and someone over on that side, probably Mr. Red Tie. And now he's got a big smirk on his face. Mrs. Pink is now smiling pretty clearly, and Mr. Striped Tie is very intently watching Mitch McConnell to see if the touch had the desired effect, or whatever that touch was. Okay, did you see the little hop by Mr. Blue Tie? You know, the little, I'm so happy with myself, I'm so thrilled, you know, you jump up on your toes a little bit. These people are so happy with themselves, and actually they're terrible actors. All of them. Whatever they're complicit in, they are terrible actors. Don't even deserve to be politicians because that's the main qualification. Unfortunately. Mitch is frozen, can't speak. He can move, but he either can't or will not speak. Now these guys, now it's been what, 4 seconds or so since the deed is done. These guys are going to have to wipe those smirks off their faces because all the attention is going to be on Mitch in the whole room pretty soon here. Boy, it took a little while to come back down to earth, didn't it? Oh, these guys are so happy. So what was it that happened? After this, you know what happens if you've seen it, is that a few more seconds go by and Mitch gets escorted out. They say, "Is there anything else you want to say? Let's take you home." This is really crazy. What do you think happened here? Nobody gets that happy over a simple prearranged signal if that's what the touch was. Okay, Mitch, your time is up. Nobody gets so happy over that. Something else happened here. Was it the sign to end his career? That doesn't make any sense either. That could have been conveyed privately. Something happened here. If you've got any ideas what happened, please comment on this because this is a huge mystery.